event. It's a collaboration between Materialize and WAGMI. I'm going to have the hosts introduce themselves, but let's get started. Hopefully you guys filled out the form. So first up, I'm going to introduce the WAGMI team. You guys can come.
Thanks, Priyanka. Hello, everyone. My name is David. I am one of the WAGMI-Connect's hosts for today, but just a little bit about myself. I'm the CEO for WAGMI-Connect. We focus on curating events, not only for tech, but also for multiple industries, including finance, marketing, as well as other categories. Outside of WAGMI-Connect, I focus in marketing, so I've been in the marketing space for 5 years now. But overall, excited to be here and have this event kicked off.
Well, Jonathan's not here because of the train. Everyone knows how the joke is. But how's everybody doing today? Good. How's that good going? Awesome. Well, I just want to say, I'm the vice president, as you guys can tell there. I just want to say thanks so much for coming here. First and foremost, we want to thank Materialize. We want to let the panelists as well, thanks so much for being here as well. And Priyanka, where's Priyanka? Priyanka, one of the hosts. Everyone give a round of applause for everybody here. Priyanka is a part of the brain of this whole operation. So we love Priyanka, we appreciate you being here. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I am, outside of WAGMI, I am an equity trader. I work for Fidelity. Now I moved over, I work for Mumu as well. But like I said, happy you guys are here and give a round of applause for you guys being here, for sure. And one more thing, go New York Knicks.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hey everyone, my name is Edmund, and I'm currently the head of strategy and growth at WAGMI-Connect. Outside of it, like David, I also work in marketing and SEO, hitting about 5 years too, so excited to be here. Thank you.
Cool. And without further ado, we also want to shout out WAGMI-Connect. They're actually today's sponsors for the raffle. So I want to pass it over to Nick and Steph just to give a quick intro. Let them quickly introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. So we all met. I talked to most of you, pretty much all of you. But yeah, we're WAGMI-Connect, event space networking app. We have most of you in the raffle, but if you need in the raffle, please join. We'd love to speak to all of you in more detail about our app and how it can help you, and how a bunch of you might be able to help us. So yeah, thank you for coming, and thank you for listening to us. So, thank you for WAGMI for believing in us when we first started. We started about a year ago. The idea was basically just to bring people together that really want to network. In this day and age, AI, ATS systems are taking over. People are not really talking to each other. So I feel like everyone in this room today, it's just a testimony to your character to get off your couch and come here today. So thank you guys again.
Thank you so much. All right, I would like to introduce Guillermo. He is marketing and Materialize.
Hello everyone, welcome to Materialize. Yeah, Guillermo, I've been here at Materialize for a little bit over a year. I handle all events here and also community events as well. We also definitely always want to foster the new generation of founders and developers. Let me know if you have any questions about just marketing in general, but more questions about Materialize. I would love to introduce my coworker, Doug, who is one of our engineers here on staff.
Reminds me to hit the record.
Recording in progress.
Anyway, my name is Dove. I work here at the database team at Materialize, and I'm here to give you like a brief, maybe 1 minute spiel about what Materialize is. Some of you I've tested this out on in the audience, so you can tell me how I'm doing. But Materialize is sort of, we like to think of it as the context layer for your business. Because a member of our leadership team is standing right there. But this is New York Tech Week, so I'll use words we would not use on the marketing website and say that Materialize is a bit of a fusion between a stream processor and a database. So you can think of it as a database that's really good at combining all of your streams of really fast changing data together and surfacing your answers really quickly. So you write your queries in regular SQL, and we turn those into data flows so we can keep really expensive queries with multi-way joins, complicated aggregations and reductions, up to date and really fresh and sort of sub-second freshness, rather than what might take, seconds or minutes in Postgres and then knock it down. And so if any of that sounds interesting to you, we have some folks from our engineering and leadership team here, and I'm here, so raise your hands if you're here for Materialize. We've got Seth back here, DB over here. Come find us. We're also generally hiring, so if that's interesting to you, materialize.com/careers. So thanks all for being here.
All right, let's get started with the panel. I'm gonna have the panelists introduce themselves. I'm gonna have Bri introduce herself first.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Let me just
Okay.
make sure the settings are working.
I think you just want to turn off your screen share if you're just planning on having her on the screen. You can just, yeah, there we go.
You can see me too? Oh, I can
Yes.
see me. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Bri. I am the head of early careers at Ancestry. You probably know us, Ancestry.com, Ancestry DNA. I have over a decade of recruiting experience under my belt, specifically in tech. I've recruited across all industries, and I used to be an agency recruiter, so tons of experience seeing technical resumes and translating people into technical careers. So really excited to be here and hopefully give you some advice and direction on the job market.
Thank you, Bri. Next up, we're gonna have Jim introduce himself.
Thanks, and thanks for inviting, and thanks for everybody for hosting, thanks Materialize for providing the space. My name is Jim Hunter. I am the oldest guy in the room. I said it, so you guys didn't have to. I've been in tech for multiple decades. I won't give you what the number is. It's not double decades. I've been a CTO, I built things, and I've found companies. I built 2 companies that I've sold in 8-figure exits off to Fortune 500 companies, and I'm building 2 more companies now, but I've also been in the private sector as well as the public sector. I sold a company to Motorola. Motorola was sold to Google. I was at Google for a while. I run with ideas. I've got 12 patents to my name. Google's got 12 patents to my name. And I write sci-fi. I've got a published novel about the singularity on Amazon. And I build cool stuff. So it's pretty cool. That just helps make my life better and lower friction. If you're interested in any of the stuff that I'm playing with or doing or wanting to nerd out, talk to me after.
Julio?
Holy moly, Joe. Considering myself as a nice guy. My name is William, and I am a sole functionary. And I founded a nonprofit in fashion called Fashion Tech. And they run hackathons. And I think that's it. I'm a DevOps engineer. So, are there any DevOps engineers here? Yeah, always one person. That's me.
All right, so first I'm gonna ask them some questions and then I'll open it up to you guys and you can ask some questions as well. So first up, I wanted to ask Bri, what are common mistakes on resumes for technical roles?
Yeah, I can start with probably my biggest pet peeve on people's resumes in the tech space, and it's when they just technology dump everything that they've ever worked with ever or seen anywhere, and they list it as a skill that they have, and they're kind of coding it as a top skill. That really implies that you're kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. And also it doesn't really ever help you beat the ATS, which is a common misconception, and what I hear the most of people saying that why they're doing that. Our ATS and most other ones that are at bigger tech companies, actually, if you have too much clutter in that area of the resume, it weeds you out. So that's a big mistake and my biggest pet peeve that I see on technical resumes. And then probably another mistake that I wish people wouldn't make as much is when they use too many abbreviations as well. Kind of the same concept where if there is an ATS, you're not going to get past it because you haven't put both the full long form version of a word and then the abbreviation. That's a thing a lot I see in people like career transitioning, where they'll send me their resume and say, oh, I haven't gotten any interviews, I've applied to 200 jobs. That's usually the missing piece, is that they've used a lot of jargon and abbreviations that wouldn't get pulled into the fold. And then using uncommon job titles or job classifications. I know sometimes companies like to be creative and call engineers different fun things. Today I was talking at a school and they had said they call software engineers technical savants. Technical savants 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the levels, and I was like, don't ever put that on your resume because you will never get a job. You've got to really try to find out what the commonplace market name is and then use that on your resume, even if it's not internally what your business is calling you. So I do see that as a mistake a lot, especially when people are switching into tech from something else.
Thank you, that was a great answer. Since you brought up career switchers, what's the best thing for career switchers to show on their resume?
Yeah, show us that you are already toying around with doing the thing. Like, we want to see that you're playing around in GitHub. We want to see that you're working on projects. We want to see that you have a passion for the space besides if you just took a class, did a boot camp, whatever it might be. We want to see the practical application of that and you expanding your knowledge beyond a traditional classroom setting. We want to see any kind of experience, like even if it's volunteer. The best thing is GitHub, but all kinds of things, even if it's an internship or something of the like. I would say that's the best advice. And then the other thing too is to just kind of try to connect with people in the space, especially if you're a career switcher, and get like an inside scoop of what you think that role is going to be like, and work on the skills, soft skills, aside from the hard skills that you think you'll need to do to be successful in that position. A lot of tech roles require communication, collaboration skills, things like that, that people in other industries aren't coming with, that they don't think about building. And when you're interviewing for positions coming from a different career, that might not be something you're thinking about or applying, and it comes out in the interview style too.
Okay, I think this is very similar to Jim. You've hired a lot of people. Would you like to add on anything to what Bri said?
Yeah, I'm gonna triple down on the master of all, jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation. When you take a course on something that doesn't get you ready to work in that material. So when you can start to show projects, got a great story. There's a kid I met yesterday, and he said, I just graduated high school from Kentucky. He arrived in New York on his money that he made contracting, and he's here for Tech Week on his own. And his parents didn't want him to come to New York. He's here, and he's the mayor of every room he walks into. It's amazing because he actually knows his stuff. And when you can tell somebody that knows their stuff and they drive their conversations from passion, right? Once you're comfortable with that knowledge and you're in those interviews and you can actually talk like it's a second language for you, that's the stuff you put on your resume. That's the way that you actually talk to people and communicate with them. When I've hired PhDs, I've hired people all over the place from wide spectrum of skill sets, and it comes down to me from an interview perspective. It's all about that that culture fit for me. There's the skills and there's the culture, right? And the skills are great. If they're not there, but the culture is there, you can still train them, you can still teach them. But if you don't have that culture fit, if you're not basically somebody that anybody wants to work with, it's going to be a problem. So when you go into these calls, when you go into these sessions with folks, like the last job I had, I was CTO of a $1 billion company here in Manhattan. I moved out for that. I was there for 5 years. My interview process involved 12 different interviews, 12 different sessions. I came to New York 3 times to get this job. And if I would have said something in the early interviews to just anybody in that process, it would have been shut down. That was like, but at the end of it, I actually, once I knew I was kind of in it, I was able to speak my mind more clearly and say things. But you just have to be very human. You have to be very polite. You have to show that you're easy to work with. That's, to me, also a very important piece. And I think you touched on that a little bit, Bri, is you have to fit in with the team that you're interviewing for.
I can definitely endorse that statement because last year I met Jim at a networking event and I was transitioning from healthcare to tech, and I just told him what I was studying and he told me about his data engineering startup, and I asked for an internship and he gave it to me, and I had a great time learning with the data engineer who's leading NSEN. So I can endorse that statement for sure. William, so I wanted to ask you, you've been in your city, especially tech, since 2012. How has the bar to entry changed, and is it actually harder now, or does it just feel that way?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The first word that I heard in that question was bar to entry, and the first thing I think about is barrier. I think that's true that over the years, there's always been barriers, but there's two parts to the answer I would give. One is the barrier definitely has gotten harder because we have a recruiter here. The tools that we use nowadays to filter people out have grown very efficient, very effective, and for a good reason. It helps people to work better in teams because they all fit together better. But also, so when you feel that barrier, it actually is a barrier because we're just so much better at filtering people out. But also, on the flip side, it's a little more easier nowadays because, like Jim mentioned before, and even Bri mentioned before, a good way to get in front of interviews is to actually go out and build stuff. And so nowadays, we have a lot of tools that we can just go online and we can start building stuff right now. I can go to GitHub and I can choose from probably thousands, millions of projects, technologies, and I can start right now. So I would say, yeah, it's definitely, it has changed. Some of it for the better and some of it to our advantage.
I wanted to ask the group a question about AI. So AI is changing every job description in real time. For someone trying to break into tech right now, is that a threat or an opportunity? And how should they be positioning themselves?
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
I can start. Yeah, so I think AI is a huge opportunity if you know how to market yourself and position yourself as someone who's on the cutting edge of it, really curious about it, playing around with it, working with it. I think it can enhance anybody's work, and I think if you embrace it the right way, it can be a huge advantage. Most companies are not going to take the huge leap that people are scared of, firing all of their engineers and replacing it with AI. Nobody's going to be doing that today or tomorrow. And the companies that have toyed around doing it are actually hiring back the people that they let off. So, and realizing that there is a good balance in AI enhancing the work, not doing the work for a person. So I think being willing to embrace it, leaning into learning, and just kind of immersing yourself in what's out there, playing around with the tools that are available, is a great thing, and it's a huge benefit.
So, I think the discovery of fire predated insurance. And the reason I say that is because we don't have records of what it was like early days when somebody discovered fire. But I guess that there's a lot of people that were burned. There's a lot of people trying to figure it out. A lot of people didn't know what to do until there's somebody that said, oh, I know how to make this useful. I know how to wield this. AI is fire. It's something that actually, if you don't know how to use it, it can cause harm. It can do bad things. But if you do know how to use it, and that's the opportunity, if you do know how to use it and you use it responsibly, you're able to actually transform. And the whole phrase is 10x. You can do so much more if you use it in a responsible way. But if you don't, and you're sloppy with it, and you vibe code, I'm not jamming on vibe coders here, but the whole notion of the code that's produced is gonna be seen and managed by some human at some point. And AI doesn't write pretty code. Multiple threads in the same AI session will write code completely different and duplicate and make mess. That kind of stuff shows up in GitHub. That kind of stuff will actually be the fire that burns you. So you have to have kind of that balance between, I'm gonna let it run crazy and I'm gonna make sure that it represents me in the way it's supposed to. So that's what I think. I think that it's a huge opportunity, but it's something that has to be harnessed to be valuable.
Okay, I can move on. Do you have anything to say, William?
I'd just add that this is going to be very controversial, but in the past 20 years I've been doing tech, there has been many technologies that I just skipped. And I'm still alive today.
An interesting thing about William is that he actually leads Flushing Tech. There's hackathons every 2 weeks. So I wanted to give him the space to talk about that a little bit and how Flushing Tech has shown you about the people trying to break into tech.
I think the first thing that I hear in that question is breaking in, like breaking into tech. I thought that was interesting. Breaking in sounds like you gotta like force yourself in. And I remember in the early days, and for me, I'm kind of young still, so there were people way older than Jim even, and those guys.
Now I'm a reference point.
You're a point, I did a point. And in those days, I remember it was very inviting. Like for anyone who wanted to write some code for a project, it was like joining some fun club. People were super inviting and welcoming. And I think that was important. Nowadays, you gotta break in, you gotta break into tech. I think the piece about Flushing Tech is that it's a little different because Flushing Tech is all about making a space where people don't have to break in. It's a place where you just come and you meet people, and if you vibe with them, you build stuff together. There's no pressure, and whatever you build, you build. And that's the feeling that it was many years ago. And that's what Flushing Tech brings, and that's something that we can still do today. And the other piece I'd add is that we have, that is something that we can do as well today. We can, today, we're all here, and I'm glad that everyone's here, everyone showed up. We can start being curious about each other. We can welcome each other. We can celebrate each other. And when you do that, in my experience, at least at Flushing Tech, people forming groups and just building stuff out of fun and curiosity, you build way better stuff. That is my experience. You build it better, you build it faster, more effective. And as a measure of interviewing and performing at a company, making connections, I think, is one of the ways that is how we win together. Have fun building together, be curious about each other, celebrate each other, and in my experience, we build way better that way.
Those were really great answers. Now that you guys know enough about the panelists and what they do, I'm going to open up the floor to anybody who has questions. So, would anyone like to start asking any of the panelists any questions?
Sure, I don't think I
There's people in the Zoom though who won't be able to hear you unless you hold the mic.
Okay, sure.
So I know we mentioned GitHub a couple of times, right? As somebody transitioning into the tech space, and of course, hopefully it's beginner friendly. Can you just name some projects that we should be working on if we're looking to transition?
So I would say, first, do what you like to do. Do like what gets you up in the morning. I know, and I totally get it. When I first began in tech, I was in debt. I had to get money. I had to find a job right away, and I would take anything that I could. But looking back, I didn't have to do that. I could have. Library, GitLab, there's a ton of other repositories, platforms. And what I'm saying is that in those places, you can find something that speaks to you. So I think the first question I would ask is, what speaks to you? And then look for like what's trending. And you can find what's trending, just like everyone's gonna tell you what's trending.
Yeah, I'll add the way I use GitHub is actually for my own code. I don't do a lot of open source, so I'm kind of a different type of old school programmer. It'll note every one of these because I'm getting credit somewhere for it. Basically, when you start thinking about solving problems and things you want to do, and especially if as Bri mentioned, you share your GitHub, and several of the events ask for your GitHub login so that they can, or your GitHub ID so they can see what you've been working on, what you've chosen to make public, what you've chosen to kind of keep private. It's a place where you show how you build things, right? And it doesn't have to be a full project. You may want to solve a problem that can be used over and over. You create modules, you create these reusable plugins, reusable functionalities. Once you start getting into that as you coding, like for example, React. React is an amazing tool for development, and it builds on JavaScript, it builds on JSON, it builds on a lot of foundational technologies, and those foundational technologies bleed over into the cloud in the form of Node. A bunch of different technologies exist, and they reuse kind of the same underlying language. So think about it as layers. You have layers of a foundational coding environment that you're in, and there's multiple pieces to that. And then you create these things that make them talk to each other. In today's world now, we've got model context protocols, so we can be able to work, with AI, can work with other AI and all those kind of things. But in the beginning, we just call those APIs, right? That gives you the ability to now reach out into something else. So you can build a module that has a function that you created because you wanted to solve a problem for yourself, and that's a repo. And that repo then is code that people can look at, and they can see how you mark your code, how you write your code, how you think about loops, and how you think about the mechanisms that are there. And as you start to play with it, oh, wow, I can do this and do this. React is for the user experience part of it, right? Hugely important, but also one piece of a full stack solution. I go all the way down to the metal, which means I can do embedded software, but all the way up to the cloud, which means you're doing, they mentioned data, you're doing data sets, you're doing queries, you're doing event queues, you're doing all the different pieces that are there. And when you say it's vast because that's where people are sticking their code. They're putting all their code there so that they can keep it safe. It backs up, it keeps track of it all. So I don't actually look at it like a Discord or anything like that. I look at it as this is my repo, and this is the stuff I do, and if I want to share it with you, then
a game development project where I couldn't make a map that's the size of the world. So I just wanted to know what type of processes do you guys go through in regards to like detailing your AI or just letting it know what do you go through in regards to like prompting the AI or giving it certain feedbacks, because I want to know as I continue my project.
So when I first started coding and playing with AI about a year and a half ago, is that right? Yeah, about a year and a half ago I started bringing AI in. And I've got a post that I did on LinkedIn where I made it apologize to me because it just messed everything up. So I had to write an apology file for me that everybody would see, of everything it did, all the other threads would see. To answer your question, it's so much better than it was. So if you look at the evolution of AI, first you had prompts, and then you had prompting libraries, and it's still in the form of prompts, but now it's much more conversational, so now you have skills. Skills are the next level because you can say exactly what it can and can't do within those skills. It doesn't always do what you want it to do. So now you need to actually have the MD files, the markdown files that it follows, and you keep a repository of markdown files. So when you're developing something and it screws up, you make sure it documents it so the next thread won't do it. And the biggest context window is everything. AI has an entire life cycle like a human has, from birth to death, and the senility that comes before that. And if you don't catch that senility soon enough, your frustration levels will grow because the context window's too big and it starts getting lost or go back to something as it does. So there's a life cycle management that you have to be able to do to know that you've made too big of a context window for it, and you have to go on to a new thread, but you have to have it hand off to the next thing. Now, when you talk about doing the world and things like that, you gotta get in and start thinking about RAG. You gotta think about all the technologies of how it's going to find the information, where your context is being stored, where all your data is being stored, how those connections happen. You've just gotta think about it. Think about building a city. When you build a city, you have to put the plumbing in first. In this case, you have to put the subways in early on. You have to then put the electricity, then you have to figure out where the buildings go, but before you do that, you gotta figure out where the building's gonna be. Technology, software, it's all the same thing. You have to think about it from an architect's mindset. You have to look at things, how you're gonna lay out, and you very quickly understand, wow, there's too much electricity, too much water gonna run through that pipe. I've gotta do something differently there. And that's how you become actually a programmer, is you realize that the way that you think it should work is not the way it works. And it's the way somebody else decided it should work when they built the engine. So there's a lot there, but good luck on the project. I've got a buddy who has mapped the world in Minecraft. So kind of a similar project.
Yeah, it was really difficult because I was just like, even when I tell it the prompts, it's like it's giving me the same thing over and over, and it's like, dang man, I don't want to screw this up, because it's like you said, it's a plumbing analogy. It's like I have to map out everything in regards to the electrical, the plumbing, and everything there. So it's like it's a bit confusing because it's like it gives me the same answer, but I wanted to tell me something that's more complex.
So just to give you a background, I'll spend 2 days writing prompts before I ever let it do anything. And I'll work through, and I work with Replit a lot, I work with Claude, and in that mode you put it into planning mode, where it can't write code. And while you're going through that iterative process, you may actually burn a thread, meaning you burn that context window, but the output of that is necessary to carry to the next generation, and the next generation, the next generation. So when you do it, you definitely think about a complete kind of generational development cycle.
Those are really great questions. Does anyone else want to ask a question?
Hi everyone, I'm Prashant. So I have like 2 questions. One is for Bri and one is for Jim. So I heard Bri said that as a technology student or a passionate tech people, you shouldn't include like much software or technical languages or programming language on your resume. But as a software developer, and so if you want to go into full stack development or even a backend development, you should know a lot of stuff in programming languages. So if And whenever I see going to an application, I see like you must have these skills. Like there are tons, like 5 or 6 must software or even like 2 programming languages you should know. So why we shouldn't include like much, or what's the limit of including that software application or the languages while you fill out the application form?
Yeah, good question. So there's not a limit to it. It's more like I would want only things on there that if I hired you tomorrow to use them, you could use them. The issue is not that you're having, if you genuinely could work with 500 things and I could hire you for all 500 things, 500 would be the number to have on your resume. But what I find most often is people will put a bunch of things and then say, but I only actually have worked in X. And so then the other things are arbitrary, they shouldn't be on your resume. You're putting them on there so that you can get into a room that you couldn't work in tomorrow if I hired you to do it. And so that's, I want you to put your full stack in every tool that you've worked on, and as many tools as are applicable that you can, like I said, get in there tomorrow and start working with. But so there is no limit. The limit is as many tools as you feel you could comfortably start a job tomorrow working with, is what I would say.
Yeah. So the second question for Jim. So Jim said that there's a limit like to use AI. So you shouldn't use AI for everything. So as a developer, so how I used AI was like to write repetitive tasks from HTML. So if I want to create a page, so I don't want to write the whole HTML. So I started with that. And then the second thing was like, I have an idea, so I need to create a function. So that was the second move. So now what I'm doing is like, I know the design system, not well, but I started learning about that. So how to do a backend. For example, I'm doing a backend project now. So I know how to restructure my code. Like I have to create a different folder for my business logic, different folder for my routes, and different things for the authentication and things. So if I know that and I want to create an application, I just want to write prompts. So this is the system that you need to follow, and you write the code, and this is my logic. So is it the right thing that I'm doing, or it's like too much of use of AI?
Do you understand all the code that's being written?
Yeah.
Do you look at the files that are there and understand the flows that it's creating?
It's, to be true, I would mostly say like 70% I understand, and there are things that AI writes code that you never understand, but you get to know about it, and then you learn about it, and then you know.
You learn from it.
Yeah, I learn from it.
That's where we are right now. Is if it creates something that you have no idea how to troubleshoot and you need AI to fix it. What happens if AI goes away tomorrow? What happens to that code? Is it orphaned? Nobody can manage it. You can't manage it. Then there's a problem. But if you're actually creating things that it's doing it for an efficiency for you, that's where you use AI. And the templating and all this kind of things, those would make perfect sense. Just make sure that you're not getting out over your skis in technology you don't understand. Just especially if you're in the job market and you're looking to kind of say, I know this skill set. If you know it because you get AI to do it, you don't know anything. But if you know it because I can do it, but I found ways to optimize that, get AI to kind of write that for me. I don't need to generate all these JSON description files for all this stuff. I'm going to pass that off and get that done. That's the way to use AI, in my opinion. You don't give it the keys to the kingdom, and you definitely don't give it things that it basically takes it out of your control.
Thank you.
Is there anything exciting you guys have built with AI that you would like to talk about?
Like I said, I built the game for the world, trying to make work on that right now. In the process of
What do you call it?
right now, it has a name. I call it Orthodox, but I'm gonna probably change the name right now. That's a prompt that I'm working on. It's a project I want to release maybe by 2045. I'm working on it right now. It's gonna be a large on Unreal Engine 6. It's just a thought that I have, and I'm working on it right now. So just bear with me, and I'll share it with you guys soon.
In 2033 is a singularity, so we'll all be in the machine with it, so it's good.
So I built quite a few projects this year. I would say the project that I would mention now is called Native Power AI. Native Power AI. So it's a AI powered language platform, and essentially the concept is in developing nations. I travel a lot, and so I've come across a lot of students who can't afford tutors, or maybe there are locations where they don't have access to technology or just access to native English speakers. So I built this project to essentially help replace the need to hire tutors. I built it to where we've essentially tracked over 60 languages. I've trained it on 60 different languages. So it's built in a sense to where it can basically talk to people on all levels. So if you're at a very basic level, most likely it understands your language and it can adapt to your native language to speak to you, in that native language and to help you build up to all of the IELTS points. So this one has got a little bit of traction actually.
How's it handle dialects?
Because I don't have my own voice synthesis technology, right? So this is purely API.
Not Kurzweil.
Right. So the most that I can do. So we talk about prompting.
Yeah.
I have worked with prompting like you wouldn't believe, right? In order to be able to get the AI voice agents to sound as natural as possible.
And for everybody out there, when we talk about prompting, I think we're both talking about this. A prompt is not what you type in, it's the files that you have behind it. And they could be massive files that are very, very, very particular about exactly what it should do and what it shouldn't do. It's not, when we talk about vibe coding, we talk about prompting, that kind of stuff, it's not, you're sitting here and you're chatting with it and getting it to do it. That is vibe coding.
Yeah.
This is, I'm building prompts, I'm building prompt libraries, I'm building these things, so.
Yeah, because I had to go in, so I'm not a linguist, I don't say anything, but I had to go in and really try and understand a little bit about the human voice. So even though I'm working with, open AIs or, different models, voice agent models, I'm still looking to try and build the most natural sounding voice agents as possible, right? And so this has gotten me to a point, like I just came from South Africa, I actually pitched the project in South Africa, I had VCs who were very interested. But of course, it's a rapper and they want me to have, voice synthesis technology, which of course is a lot more expensive to do. But they absolutely love the project. Everyone who I've spoken to about it absolutely loved the project. I've demonstrated the project. So it's probably, but this year I've built quite a few projects. I mean, a lot of projects, right? I'm kind of going a little bit crazy.
Once you get the efficiency, you can. That's it. That's the 10x of it all. I'm working with a bunch of different people doing fractional work, helping people, guide them along, and it's amazing how quickly that you can actually build things when you start getting this mindset that, okay, it's going to take a week to do, but 6 days of that is going to be writing all the architecture and the prompt and that kind of stuff, and then you're going to punch in. And if you do it the right way, and you're doing something, I did something for healthcare. And as you build this out, you recognize, oh, okay, this is specifically targeted to these specific things, but if I just change this in the prompt, I can flip it to a new target using the same basic code set, so less to manage. Yeah, I love that you're doing lots of projects. I think that's exactly what you're looking for, is people who are just out there doing.
We're gonna open up the panel for 10 more minutes, so if you guys have any last questions. Do you guys wanna ask a question?
I guess this one is more like open to the floor. For those who have used AI in a more meaningful way, because my obsession is with efficiency, what is the smallest, I guess, device that you've been able to use AI on? In terms of, like, I don't know, you could even talk about memory-wise, or like the architecture you've used.
It depends on what your use case is, right? If you're trying to do something that needs a larger, it's all about the context window. If you have a large context window, you're going to need the large processor to run it. The good news is that the memory requirements and the pieces that are moving, and even the way memory is being managed, is shifting by the month, right? Remember when the company came out with an optimized engine? It was like a year ago. A Chinese company came out and just blindsided OpenAI with. That's going to continue to happen as we go through all these cycles of growth of AI. And I think that one of the pieces of advice here is when you build this, make sure you don't build it to one single model. Make sure that what you're doing is as flexible as it can be, because the model you have today may not be the model in the future. But from a small footprint perspective, when you're starting to look at memory use, like you're in AWS and you're spinning up EC2s, or you're spinning up your different code sets there. I use Fargate, so it automatically can scale. But when you're doing that, you have to be very conscientious about what you're doing. Plus the cost. Token cost is everything, and it can run out of control really, really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's my challenge right now.
Yeah.
Like all the devices that I use are pretty small footprint.
But the minis, every time a new one comes up that's actually pro, blah, 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 the minis come out that are like the previous version that was great last week. There's something better now. Go with what was great last week, because those token prices are lower. It's kind of like the 3G, 4G, 5G kind of thing when we were paying by the gigabit, right, back in the day. And now we're paying for like these all-you-can-eat plans. But there was a difference where as technology, like phone communications were evolving, there's companies that actually fell backwards just so they wouldn't have to pay all the premium prices of the bleeding edge.
Okay, thank you.
Over here.
Thank you so much for the talk, and I was absent because we had something going on. My name is Priyanka. I am starting off a company called Finite PDE, and I did a startup before called Citizen, which got acquired by a company called Ansys, and then Ansys got acquired by a company called Synopsys. The fact what I'm kind of building right now is a physics-based engine for gaming and for heart and for other organs. So if something fails, instead of waiting it out and figuring out whether a heart is replaceable or not, and doing traditional heart molding and things like that would take a lot of time. Can you figure out the physics? And each person's heart is different, each person's organs are different. So how to kind of get minimum metrics to figure out if there is a match or not. And same technologies can be done for like piping systems and others, like the physics of that. I just wanted to kind of ask the question over here, like, since the AI technologies and the tokens are changing, the cost of tokens are changing and the models are changing, and how the statistics and the LLM is changing so much, so fast. How to kind of baseline the system? Like, how did you baseline the system? Like, in your experience, like, how are you baselining the systems? And what is the benchmarking process for such a scientific type of?
Well, first, science is great because it doesn't change. Right? We may discover new things, but in your case, closed loop fluid systems don't change. Pressure and the way the temperature, pressure all behave, whether it's inside of your blood vessels or it's inside of piping, it's very similar and it's not going to change. It's not fluctuating time. So you actually have a much more grounded reality than a lot of people out there trying to build user experiences and all this other stuff. So you have that to start with. And once you have that, the pieces for you, I believe, the value proposition for you is how much data can I get? What can I do with the data, right? Business rules and the logic around that, and how do I present that data in a usable way to whoever that particular consumer of that is, whether it's the doctor, whether it's the patient, whatever that is. So if you break it down and think like that, those are the baselines. The baselines are, I've got this physics engine, this is great, it's doing, and it's gonna just, physics are gonna be physics, right? On top of it, the data points. I increase the data points, I increase blah, 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 blah. And then as I move that in, okay, now the experience, I think that's the way I actually look at the world, is I look at it as modules and stacks. So that's how I do my baseline, and just look at the like I said for the city, that's exactly how I think about things. So that's how I do it.
I was just thinking about the efficiency baselines, like, you know, how much, if you solve the same problem using a traditional method and an AI-based system, like how to baseline the speed, what would be the maximum speed that you can get from a certain model, like how you.
And it's different tomorrow than it was yesterday.
Right.
And what you need to know is what your baseline for productivity, what your product actually has to do at a minimum.
Right.
That's your baseline. And then it's actually identifying that my baseline is here, the cost per token for whatever it is that I'm doing, or the cost for processing is this. Here's my cost for memory, my cost for processing, my cost down for tokens. Those are the pieces that you kind of keep that product in reality. But once you get to a point with your code sets, the efficiencies of the processing and the back ends are going to increase over time. The cost of compute is going to, with one exception, we're running into a fight, a conflict, an electron war, we'll call it, between crypto, between electric cars and compute. The prices in crypto, there's this thing called gas prices. You know what that is? Right. So gas prices vary based upon a number of conditions, but mostly due to availability. Now we're going to see the same thing with tokens. Tokens aren't going to be a fixed price much longer, because the processing that's necessary to do it has to be driven by real electrons, or electrons, wherever they come from, are going to cost money. So that's the only fluctuation that's going to come as gas prices are going to affect everything within technology, but it's going to be at a level, we're like 5 to 7 years away from that really becoming a thing. But it's going to, it means that today, the efficiencies you have today, if they're doing the job, that's where you're at. You don't need to do special things, and if you do, then you spin up different processes to do it, and you choose when you bring those on. It's like, let's see, it's a very modular system, and you add on things that bring extra value only when they bring the value, and you only spend them on when you need them. Containers are a great approach with a good messaging system, a good queuing system that can scale. And that's the way you kind of get those additional pieces as the future comes. I'm not sure if that helped, but.
Yes. I mean, the portion which helped me is the fluctuation which you talked about, which I have not personally taken into account that could happen in the future. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, so I just want to let everybody know that everyone on the panel has a LinkedIn. So you guys can find them on LinkedIn if you want to ask any more questions. But for now, we're going to close off the panel. We have a raffle that we're going to announce soon, and also we're going to do a group picture, so that'll be great. But just to let you guys know, the QR code that I brought up in the beginning, I will be connecting you guys to the connections that make sense to you the most. So if you weren't able to ask your question, or maybe you weren't able to connect with somebody right now, you might actually go home and receive an email and be able to connect to someone who may be working on, there are students who are doing computer science, so if you're a builder, that might be helpful for you. But a lot of people here are trying to find something or build something, especially with AI. So I really hope that you guys got the most out of this panel. And would you guys like to say any last words?
Sure. I just want to say thank you for having me here today, and thank you for the questions. And do connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any specific questions around hiring, the job market. Please just mention that you were at this event, and I'm happy to review resumes or talk through anything like that you're struggling with in your job search. But yeah, always happy to be a resource, and thank you to the other panelists and for Priyanka for inviting me, and it was great to be here.
I echo that. Thank you for putting this together and bringing all these wonderful people into this space, and appreciate the sponsors and appreciate Materialize for making this available.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Priyanka did this in 7 days, 10 days, so like less than a sprint. So it just goes to show that nothing is impossible.
I think we still have pizza in the back, so if you guys are hungry, please help yourself. We don't want to take all of that pizza home. Do you guys want to take over?
Bri, Jim, and William, thank you so much for helping us put this event together. Now we're going to pass it over to WAGMI-Connect to finalize with the raffle, and after that we'll do a quick group picture of everybody that attended the event.
All right, guys, once again, thank you for attending. We'll be real quick. The winner of the Amazon gift card raffle is Sophia. Mingling to us, and we'll give you an Amazon gift card. So, thank you.